Good morning. And before we start general questions, I'll just remind members that at 12 noon today, building users will be invited to observe 1 minute's silence to remember those who sadly lost their lives or were affected by the Grenfell Tower tragedy 1 year ago. And I will ask those, all of us present, including the gallery in the chamber, to join me in observing the silence when we reach 12 noon. So I will stop the question session just before 12 noon, maybe a minute or so beforehand. And there'll be a very short pause after before we go into FMQs. So we turn now to general questions, and we start with question number 1 from Patrick Harvie.
Presiding Officer, to ask the Scottish Government whether it will provide an update regarding its position on how the proposed third runway at Heathrow could impact on carbon emissions. Cabinet Secretary Keith Brown.
In support of its Airports National Policy Statement, the UK Government has analysed the impact on carbon emissions and other environmental factors from the proposed third runway at Heathrow. Alongside publication of the National Policy Statement on the 5th of June, the UK Government published an appraisal of sustainability. That estimates that there could be a significant increase in carbon emissions if no mitigating measures were taken. The Scottish Government has noted this analysis, and the UK Government's view that a new third runway is deliverable within its international carbon commitments. And the UK Government has stated it will not proceed with the third runway unless that is achievable.
Patrick Harvie.
I'm rather astonished that the Scottish Government, which is seeking apparently to increase the scale of ambition on climate change, is relying on the complacency being shown by the UK Government, which has clearly been told that to press ahead with this project will make its own UK-wide climate targets unachievable. This is the most environmentally destructive method of increasing aviation capacity, and the Scottish Government's own estimates suggest that it will increase the number of short-haul flights between Scotland and Heathrow. Isn't this an example of the most recklessly complacent project in infrastructure in the UK? And isn't the Scottish Government due genuine criticism for listening to its lobbyists at SNP conference, throwing a free bar and expecting the Scottish Government to fall in line behind this damaging, unnecessary and destructive project?
Cabinet Secretary.
Well, I'm sure that the question is really designed to try and gain a headline rather than further illumination on the approach of the Scottish Government. And it is the case that, of course, that the UK Government is committed to a further runway at one of their airports, and they have chosen to go with Heathrow. My job, both in terms of the Scottish Government's support for environmental mitigation, is clear, and we have said, and the UK Government have said, that they would not proceed with this if they cannot contain it within their appraisal of sustainability and their carbon climate change targets. So they have made that statement. Over and above that, though, we have made sure, because this is going ahead, that there will be benefit to Scotland. And my job as Economy Secretary is to make sure, for example, that connectivity happens with the rest of the UK, given the importance of Heathrow. And of course, it is the case that where we can, we have tried to get direct flights to Scotland, such as the one started this very week from Beijing, which obviate the need for additional legs, additional flights coming from other airports. And also we have a £1.5 million marketing campaign, which is Marketing Scotland at Heathrow, important for our tourism sector. An agreement to site one of the 4 UK supply chains hubs in Scotland, with Prestwick Airport looked at as well in that exercise. And also procurement of a minimum of £200 million of construction-related spend in Scotland during the planning and construction phase. That is why the GMB, for example, and many others are very supportive of the Scottish Government's approach to making sure that we get maximum benefit from this development.
Kenneth Gibson.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Tomorrow, Heathrow Airport representatives will visit Hunterston to discuss the potential of that magnificent site for use as a logistics hub. As the Cabinet Secretary is aware, Hunterston ticks every box in terms of suitability, efficiency, location and accessibility. Does he agree that choosing Hunterston would boost productivity, enhance supply chain opportunities for local businesses and leave a legacy of new skills whilst remaining within climate change targets? And can you tell us how many jobs in my constituency such a logistics hub would create?
Cabinet Secretary.
Mr Gibson will know that there are 10 sites competitively bidding to be Scotland's supply chain hub for Heathrow, and I am also aware that Heathrow representatives are this week visiting 4 sites, including, as the member mentions, Hunterston and indeed Prestwick. Mr Gibson will also be aware that the commitment to establish a hub in Scotland was part of the Memorandum of Understanding which the Scottish Government signed with Heathrow in October 2016. Amongst other significant benefits for Scotland from the MOU, the supply chain hub is anticipated to create, to answer Mr Gibson's direct question, a minimum of 100 direct jobs, and I welcome the interest this has generated at sites throughout Scotland.
Question number 2, Michelle Ballantyne.
Thank you, Convener. To ask the Scottish Government what its strategy is for the elimination of hepatitis C.
Mr Aileen Campbell.
Thank you. The Scottish Government is committed to eliminating serious disease associated with hepatitis C, and we have seen real progress with that. Health Protection Scotland data shows that we have delivered a 39% reduction between 2013 and 2016 on the incidence of decompensated cirrhosis in those with chronic hep C, a clear indication that our approach of targeting those most unwell is working. I've also asked Health Protection Scotland to provide recommendations on how we might eliminate the virus.
Michelle Ballantyne.
Thank you. Whilst I do appreciate that the Government has signed up to the World Health Organisation's pledge to eliminate hep C by 2030, the current treatment projections are not on target, with only 7,500 patients expected to receive treatment over the next 3 years. Given that Scotland had been considered a world leader in the elimination of hep C, does the Minister agree that the Government has actually dropped the ball on this issue? And will she commit to an updated strategy which will effectively tackle this debilitating disease?
Minister.
Well, as I outlined in my previous answer, the reduction that we've seen on some of the health consequences associated with hep C are seeing a downward trajectory, which shows and I think indicates that our progress is good and that we're doing the right things. We've also committed to increase the annual treatment targets for hep C to 2,000 per year for 2018-19, and indeed the latest figures for 2017-18 show that the treatment target for that year was exceeded. As I've said also in my previous answer, I've asked Health Protection Scotland to provide me with recommendations to how we eliminate the virus, and we remain committed to eliminating hep C. And again, we're asking Health Protection Scotland how we do this. That's a sensible thing to do about what are the things we need to do to make the progress that we need in this area to ensure that people are given good health.
Anas Sarwar.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. We all want to see hep C tackled and eliminated, but sadly less than 1 in 5 people in Scotland diagnosed with hep C is receiving the treatment they need. So finding, testing and treating patients is crucial. One of the problems that has been highlighted is what happens in prisons. So patients who are open and accessible to treatment, who want that treatment, don't begin that treatment because the pathway when they then leave prison and into the community is a challenge. Can the Government please address that issue so there is a clearer pathway of treatment beginning in prison and then continuing through into the community?
Minister.
I think the point that Anas Sarwar raises is legitimate. Certainly would also commend the work that I saw firsthand up in NHS Tayside, where they're getting all partners together to make sure that they can find people who will require treatment, people who are not necessarily immediately presenting with needing that testing. Again, though, I've also seen firsthand the fantastic work that's happening in Iva McKee's constituency at Ballantyne, part of Anas Sarwar's region, which is work that's going on between Ballantyne and Waverley Care to ensure that pathway after liberation ensures that people remain contacted with services and are able to get the support they require after liberation. So there's good work happening, much we can learn and much we have to roll out across to other prisons, though it's a point that's well made.
Tom Arthur.
Presiding Officer, given that there are an estimated 15,000 people with hepatitis C who are undiagnosed and that the majority of those with the virus have been or are currently injecting drug users, does the Minister agree with me that safe drug consumption facilities would present a valuable opportunity for testing, treatment and engagement with support services?
Minister.
Absolutely, and I commend Tom Arthur for his long-standing commitment to issues around hep C. There is absolutely strong evidence to show that these facilities are successful in reducing harm for people who inject drugs, but they also, more crucially, I think, offer an opportunity to engage those people with a specific, who might not ordinarily be engaged in services, who are able to then access additional services that would help them onto the road to recovery. So absolutely, I agree with what Tom Arthur outlined in his question.
Question number 3, David Torrance.
To ask the Scottish Government how important European migrant workers are to a soft fruit industry in Scotland.
Cabinet Secretary Fergus Ewing.
Presiding Officer, the soft fruit sector is hugely important to the Scottish economy. It is one of Scotland's food and drink success stories. It's grown its output from £49 million in 2006 to £115 million in 2016. Last year, the Scottish Government commissioned research to better appreciate the scale of seasonal migrant workers to the Scottish agriculture sector as a whole, and it found that almost 10,000 strong workforce, the vast majority of which were in the soft fruit sector, 95% were European migrants. So clearly, Presiding Officer, European migrant workers are key to the industry's success continuing in the future.
David Torrance.
In 2017, Farms Angus growers, a collective of farms in Angus, Perthshire and Fife, lost out on 625,000, as 85 tonnes of fruit was unpicked or downgraded due to labour shortages. Does the Cabinet Secretary agree with me that the UK Tory government's shameful, unprepared and shambolic Brexit strategy is damaging Scotland's economy and growth by restricting our £115 million fruit and picking industry?
Cabinet Secretary.
Well, I think anyone must do if they look at the facts. What Mr Torrance has said is simply no more than state facts, which have been not only well reported, but repeatedly reported time after time again. And myself and Grahame Day, the MSP for Angus, have met with Angus growers, and indeed I visited 2 of the farms there in April to speak with employees. It's very clear that the loss of migrant workers is not only a threat in the future, but damaging the soft fruit economy right now. And what I think is the right approach, Presiding Officer, is that this Parliament should have powers to deal with this matter ourselves. A tailored migration system for Scotland is needed. And this would see devolved powers within a UK framework to allow the Scottish Government, accountable to the Scottish Parliament, to set visa rules and criteria to meet Scotland's most acute needs. And actually, Michael Gove has actually said that powers should be passed to Scotland in this area. So, Presiding Officer, let's get on with it.
Willie Rennie.
I agree with the Minister that this is having a significant impact on the economy of Scotland. In North East Fife, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of workers who are picking berries or also picking broccoli for Morrison's and other supermarkets. Has he made an assessment of the financial impact so far this year of the shortage of workers? And has he relayed that to the UK Government? Because I do think they need to understand about the financial and economic impact there already has been because of the exchange rate, but because of also Brexit too.
Cabinet Secretary.
Well, I think Mr Rennie makes a fair point, and it does illustrate that apart from one party in this chamber, there is common ground in this area. The vast majority of people in this chamber and the vast majority of people watching and in Scotland believe that it is not right to treat people in this way. People that give of their time, that come to this country to work extremely hard, starting very often, I understand, at 5 or 6 in the morning, working extremely hard in order to deliver success in the sectors that Mr Rennie mentions. He asked about surveys. Well, we do have certain information. For example, nearly 60% of farmers believe that without access to migrant labour, maintaining existing business structures would definitely not happen, and nearly half believe that they will definitely have to downgrade their work. And as Mr Torrance said, it has already had a damaging effect last year in respect of reduced harvest, reduced output, reduced profits and reduced GVA to the economy. So I hope that Mr Gove will implement the pledge which he made when he spoke to the NFU conference, I believe in the early part of this year, that there would be a scheme which would enable this. He's failed to implement that pledge, incidentally. He promised it, I think, by March. March is long gone and no action has happened. So I'm afraid he's broken that pledge. But that in itself would not be enough. It would not be enough. We need a Scottish-tailored, Scottish-designed policy produced by the Scottish Government through the Scottish Parliament to end the iniquity, the unfairness, the seediness, the unpleasantness of this policy that is a shame to Scotland and the UK and damaging our rural economy already.
Question number 4, Bob Doris.
To ask the Scottish Government how it is supporting housing associations in the Glasgow Maryhill and Springburn constituency to help deliver its target of 50,000 new and affordable homes.
Minister Kevin Stewart.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Over the course of the current Parliament, we plan to invest £56 million in the Maryhill and Springburn constituency area. This is part of the £537 million worth of funding which the Scottish Government is making available to Glasgow for investment in affordable housing. This investment will provide an additional 1,106 affordable homes for Maryhill and Springburn communities, making a significant contribution to our ambitious target of delivering over 50,000 affordable homes in the course of this Parliament. In addition, through our new Building Scotland Fund, we will support a further 3,000 new homes over the coming years by providing funding to help deliver a mix of affordable and market homes. This is a distinct and separate commitment to our 50,000 affordable homes target during this Parliament and is a further investment from this Government as we continue to support all housing tenures across Scotland.
Bob Doris.
Presiding Officer, I welcome that answer and I would draw the attention of the Minister to the 50 new units that will be completed by Cadder Housing Association around the turn of this year. Cadder Housing Association also wish to contribute to the wider regeneration of the community and are developing a Cadder vision strategy for an area of significant deprivation and disadvantage as acknowledged by the Scottish Index of Multiple Deprivation. Can I ask how the Scottish Government seeks to proactively target resources more generally at severely deprived communities such as Cadder, and will the Minister accept my invite to see for himself the ambitious plans contained within the Cadder vision?
Minister.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I'm delighted to hear that Cadder Housing Association wish to contribute to the wider regeneration of the area and to hear about the Cadder vision. We support the wider community-led regeneration through a combination of funding and investment and creating the conditions to support communities and community empowerment right across the country. I'm pleased to see that Cadder has already benefited from £1 million of Regeneration Capital Grant Fund in the development of a state-of-the-art community facility which the association manages in partnership with Glasgow City Council. And I would be delighted to come and visit Cadder. It might be a while off. I've accepted a lot of invitations in the Chamber in recent weeks, but I'd be delighted to hear about the wider vision and would be happy to meet Mr Doris there.
Grahame Simpson.
Thank you. Kevin Stewart's pulled back from his own manifesto pledge to build 50,000 new affordable homes and is instead promising to deliver 50,000. That will include bringing empty homes back into use. Can you tell us how many of the target will actually be new build homes and how many will be old homes?
Minister Kevin Stewart.
Presiding Officer, I intend to build and deliver as many new affordable homes over the course of this Parliament as possible. And as Mr Simpson rightly knows from my appearances at the Local Government Committee, which have been numerous, one of the things which I am determined to do is to allow local authorities the flexibilities to buy back homes in certain areas where it's not possible to build, but those homes are required to fulfil the needs of local people. Beyond that, I want to ensure that the homes that we are building and that we are delivering across the country are meeting the needs of the people of Scotland. This Parliament can be assured that I have a determination to deliver, to build as many new affordable homes as possible, and that's backed by the whole of this Government.
I'm very conscious we're going to stop before 12 o'clock. In fact, I was going to ask Ivan McKee, but I won't. Okay, Mr McKee, if you're very brief.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. The need for more affordable homes is indisputable. Is the Minister considering innovative solutions, such as Clyde Homes in my constituency build high-quality affordable homes in a factory setting, considerably cheaper than traditional build, can have them transported and installed on-site in a matter of weeks? Is this something the Minister is looking at?
Very much so. I've visited a number of offline construction sites. I'm willing to have a further conversation with Mr McKee and to visit Clyde Homes.
Thank you very much. And apologies to other members. We're just going to pause for a second and then I'll resume.